점점 높아져 노란 달빛이 멀어지며 나의 삶의 계절을 느끼는 나의 계절 느끼는 나이 들어가는 이 계절은 나의 삶의 모습 바라보니 푸르른 그 계절이 지나고 붉게 익어가는 내 모습 보는 나의 겨울이 오면 후회 없이 내어주리라.
Second Kings, chapter 5, verses 1 through 14. Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Now the Syrians, on one of their raids, had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "Would that my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy." So Naaman went in and told his Lord. Thus and so spake the girl from the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, "Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So he went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, "When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent you Naaman my servant, that you may cure him of his leprosy." And when the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, "Am I God, to kill and to make alive, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? Only consider and see how he is seeking a quarrel with me." But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent to the king, saying, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and stood in the door of Elisha's house. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." But Naaman was angry and went away, saying, "Behold, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call upon the name of his God and wave his hand over the place and cure the leper. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" So he turned and went away in a rage. But his servants came near and said to him, "My father, it is a great word the prophet has spoken to you. Will you not do it? Has he actually said to you, 'Wash and be clean'?" So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. In this story of a miraculous healing, we see the powerful and the humble drawn together, as God uses persons and circumstances to reveal the divine will. Naaman, who is the victor in battle, is helpless against the disease of leprosy. The king of Israel, powerful within his kingdom, is suspicious of Naaman. In contrast, we see humble persons who act as agents for God's will. The servant of Naaman's wife, taken captive in war, could have been bitter about her status, but seeks the good of those around her. She suggests that the prophet of her home country could provide healing. Naaman's assistants, also modest in power and status, urge their irritated boss not to reject the method of healing prescribed by the prophet, but to give it a chance to work. In the center of these two sets of characters, between the powerful and the powerless, stands the prophet Elisha, who makes it clear that worldly power is nothing compared to God's power. Elisha is the instrument of healing, but he does not need to make the act of healing extravagant or showy. What would be a magnificent feat for an earthly doctor is done simply by the divine healer. God's grace and mercy are there for those who are able to listen and humbly accept. This healing is part of a longer story of political power struggles in Israel's rise and fall. Within the larger frame, this moment can also be set apart as a timeless reminder of the power of God to bring us into relationship so that we may be made whole.